Everybody knows what a Bitcoin is, literally, not just in Europe, not just in America. You go to Latin America, to Africa, I've traveled, I've asked people to Asia. People know what it is. That adoption, usage hasn't happened. Adoption, that people, okay, it exists. We might not trust it for the reasons you just said, right? But that has happened. And my question is, do you think adoption has happened in your opinion, or do you think adoption is only when everybody will use it? And that's what you will say adoption is.
When I joined this space, I had a vision that I would be able to go to any coffee shop and buy coffee with crypto. I had a vision that these smart contracts would fundamentally replace services in the finance sector. And I think to date, a large percentage of crypto has purely been speculation. They're vehicles for speculation. And to be honest, the reason Bitcoin is known so well is not because someone came to me and said, hey, dude, you got to use this Bitcoin thing. It's way easier to like pay for your rent or buy groceries. That's not why we discovered the tech. Most people, they discovered the tech because they heard, did you hear that Bitcoin went to 22K? Did you hear Bitcoin went to 40K? And until people are discovering the technology because it actually impacts their lives beyond just being a vehicle for financial speculation, until we've reached that point, we haven't achieved adoption. And the reason I believe we haven't achieved adoption, there's a couple things. One is the gas user experience. The concept of like, in order to pull off a transaction on certain like blockchain, like in order to use an app on some other blockchain, like I have to have the underlying gas token, right? I think that's like so much friction for most normal people, like that problem has to get solved. I think that's problem number one. A lot of these apps, like gas. Problem number two is privacy. There is a reason crypto hasn't bridged back to commerce. It's because you need some form of auditable privacy. I should be able to go to a cashier, buy a hot dog with crypto, and the cashier shouldn't be able to check a block explorer and be like, I know how much money that person has in their crypto wallet. That's a security risk. That's a real world tangible security risk. As a business, if I'm engaging in like lending on a blockchain or those payments I was talking about earlier, I don't want competitors to be able to snoop on block explorer data and be like, ooh, he had 40 customers today. At this time of day, they bought the product and this is how much they spent. Total transparency. It's not like commerce. Commerce needs a degree of privacy. Simultaneously, you can't have a black box of privacy. You can't have so much privacy that you're incapable of being audited by a government. Total privacy can lead to nefarious things, right? In terms of how crypto is used with like money laundering and those types of things that these regulators are rightfully concerned about. I believe the end game in order to achieve adoption would be a world where I'm on some blockchain, I have encrypted transactions, encrypted app interactions. When my auditor comes to me and says, hey, I need to look at your transaction history, I can hand them something like a viewing key. They can decrypt, they can see all of my stuff, but my neighbor can't see all of my transactions. My neighbor can't see my crypto balances.
I'm sorry to cut you out there, but I want to like get into this. Is a good conversation. I like it. That wouldn't stop the auditor from sharing that information with anyone that he wants to. Okay, that would be not following the code of conduct, but if he wants to, he can share it, right?
There's truth to this. And so this is where there's a really interesting trade-off. So I always like to say that privacy and sovereignty are intimately intertwined. And what I mean by that is until you hand over the keys to your data, you're in full control. Like, right? Because it's all encrypted. In an optimal world, you could hand over a viewing key that expires in 10 minutes, right? They have 10 minutes where they can view the data, or maybe they only have access to a certain subset of the data. But you are correct. At the point that you've given someone the ability to view your data, they could store it, they could be nefarious with it. But what I do know is ultimately, like, we have to try to find a technology where people have the sovereignty to comply. They should choose to comply. Probably. That's up to the users, up to the citizens that want to be compliant with the governments that they benefit from, the countries that they're a part of. And we need to give regulators a path to like trust the users and for users to trust the regulators. And I think we at least need to get the tools in place to do it. Fundamentally, as you've pointed out, whenever you relinquish control to someone else, custody of anything, you're trusting that actor. And it's a fair observation.